Fridays are awesome. Welcome to CNN Student News, commercial-free current events. I'm Carl Azus at the CNN Center. First up, this first day of May, we've been reporting on the peaceful protests and the riots in Baltimore, Maryland. Tensions in the eastern U.S. city heated up after the arrest and mysterious death of Freddie Gray. Here's what we know about him. The 25-year-old African-American man was arrested on April 12th. At some point, he suffered a severe injury to his spine. Gray died on April 19th. Officials are trying to determine whether Gray was injured before his arrest, during his arrest, or at some point afterward while he was being transported in a police van. The police department has done its investigation. Yesterday, it gave those findings to prosecutors in the Baltimore Attorney's Office. Other investigations continue. Meanwhile, some current and former members of the NFL's Baltimore Ravens have been visiting schools near where the protests occurred. Dozens of pro football players and coach John Harbaugh have been distributing food, encouraging students, and discouraging them from getting involved in violence. A U.S.-led coalition continues to attack terrorists in the Middle East. Yesterday, officials reported 21 airstrikes against ISIS, Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, the very countries where the airstrikes were carried out. Like other terrorist groups, ISIS routinely murders civilians, sometimes by the dozens. But unlike many other terrorist groups, ISIS is relatively well organized. When it takes over territory, it then sets up government there.
ISIS sees itself as a state, a government. Its ambition to be an Islamic caliphate that claims sovereignty over the world's Muslim community. So, how does ISIS govern the territory it controls? Who picks up the garbage, runs schools, and patrols the traffic? Well, this is an area larger than many countries, and ISIS has divided the territory into wilayats, or provinces, each of which has a governor. Several new provinces have been created, virtually erasing the Syria-Iraq border. At the top of the government is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the self-declared caliph of ISIS. He has a sort of cabinet, the Shura Council, and beneath that, about 10 ministries or councils that maintain everything from health, education, and religious rulings to transportation and even environmental policy. Despite its medieval sense of justice, in many ways, ISIS runs a surprisingly modern bureaucracy, according to terror analysts. The health department has fully operational hospitals, complete with maternity wards. Babies are delivered daily, registered and issued with official ISIS birth certificates. It also has a court system that runs its strict interpretation of Sharia, or Islamic law. Theft, for example, is punishable by chopping off a hand, but it also handles everything from traffic violations to rental disputes. The education department runs several schools and even the university in Mosul. Girls receive an education, though segregated from boys, and the curriculum is severely limited. No art, music, or theater, no physical education or philosophy, just reading, writing, math, and of course, religion, according to ISIS. In many places, ISIS has simply taken over the civil infrastructure already in place. Particularly in war-torn Syria, ISIS hopes to prove it is bringing order to chaos, however violent its rule.
Water Winter Wonderland is one nickname for the state of Michigan. We're diving into today's roll call. Petoskey High School is in the city of Petoskey. The Northmen are watching there. Would love to visit sometime. Next, we're going to the Peach State, where the Black Knights of Richards Middle School are online. Hello, Lawrenceville, Georgia. And in the Western Pacific, it's great to see the Wolverines in Okinawa, Japan. Kadena Middle School wraps up our roll. A new candidate in the race for the White House. Senator Bernie Sanders announced his candidacy yesterday. He's an independent from Vermont, but he'll try to become the Democratic Party's nominee for president. Also seeking the Democratic nomination, former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. On the Republican side, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, and Florida Senator Marco Rubio have formally announced their candidacy. The nation of Greece includes about 2,000 islands. Fewer than 200 of them are inhabited, and one of them is what's been labeled a blue zone. These are areas of the world where people tend to live longer. There's one in Okinawa, Japan, where a roll call school was. There's one in Sardinia, Italy. What is it about Ikaria, Greece, that according to BlueZones.com helps people live longer with fewer cases of cancer and heart disease?
The island of Ikaria, a short ferry ride back in time. Like many of the Greek isles, it is a lush and rugged rock perched above the azure Aegean Sea. But unlike the rest of Greece, the rest of Europe, heck, the rest of most of the world, Icarians live really long and really well. True story, a 104-year-old woman walked into a bank on this island looking for a loan. The banker politely explained that financing is only available to those under the age of 103. So how do they manage to thumb their nose at the Grim Reaper this way? As the ferry gets closer to this intriguing island, the first vital hint comes into view.
You'll notice that the shoreline of Ikaria is not exactly the most hospitable when it comes to docking a boat. Very rocky, very craggy, no real natural ports. And then there are the winds around this part of the Aegean, notoriously squirrely. Sailors have been complaining about these winds going back to the Iliad. So that combination of factors made this island a really lonely place for a long time.
Yes, by a quirk of geology and meteorology, the creep of modern society completely missed Ikaria. All the striving and stresses sailed right on by.
In all blue zones, about 95% of their dietary intake is plants. It's actually very high carb, believe it or not. All this protein, paleo stuff, not in blue zones.
Really?
They're eating very high carb diet, but complex carbohydrates. Almost all plants.
These hills are filled with herbs and greens and teas, all filled with antioxidant homeopathic goodness. Even Icarian honey is one of a kind.
So the bees pollinate with these pine kind of scrub brush, and it creates this distinctive honey.
Yes, it's really thick. It looks like peanut butter, and it's actually an anti-cancer agent.
And is it true they take a big spoonful every morning just to coat the digestive tract?
Several of the centenarians would, for the first thing, they start the morning with a tablespoon of honey, and the idea is that not only coats it, but also lowers inflammation.
Some of our Before We Go segments have a story. Some are just the random, goofy things that people and animals do. And some are just really cool to look at, like this lava lake in Hawaii. The state's Kilauea volcano has overflowed. Activity here isn't exactly unusual. It's the most active volcano in the world. The thing's been erupting for more than 30 years. So it's really cool to visit, but you probably don't want to live too close by. Even some photographers would say there's no Kilauea they'd get that close. But there's a lot to love about the pictures if anyone called theirs to visit them. I'm Carl Azus, and we'll have even greater puns next week.